Overwatch bears host to hundreds of teams and thousands of players, but the two teams in this video are by far the most cursed, toxic, and sometimes downright evil teams to ever exist. From creating the composition that killed the Overwatch League, to creating a win-trading empire, to purposefully employing a man that admitted to dating a 14-year-old, these two teams created infinite dread and mistrust within our scene. I'd like to preface this video by saying that a lot of this drama is from many years ago, but most of these players were really young, so I don't think a lot of it should be held against them today. The first team in this video had 4 players banned from Overwatch for creating a boosting empire, and also had one of the most famous streamers in the world on it for some reason. Goats, previously known as Fractal Esports and also known as First Generation, was a contenders team founded by Gator, Kaluj, and Scott in 2018, but their story starts long before that. In the pre-Overwatch League era, the two brothers, Gator and Scott, played on a variety of different teams, and were just general nuisances on the ranked ladder. They later met Kaluj and Carter, 2 other ranked terrorists, and formed a boosting alliance alongside this dude named Paradise. These players were incredibly skilled and notable, so it was easy for them to acquire and get new accounts to high ranks really quickly, which could net them a lot of money. Unfortunately, they weren't too smart about how they were doing it. The way they sold accounts was through a website called Player Auction, where you could list an account, a delivery speed, and a price and have people bid on it. One of the boosters, Kaluj, wasn't so discreet by this operation, as he tried to sell this account named Kaluj V2 for $485, claiming it was a rare account. While all that was going on, Gator and Scott were win trading on the ranked ladder to get more accounts into the top 10. Back in the day, being top 10 on the ladder meant a lot more, because there were only like 5 seasons, and it could actually impact your visibility to pro teams. There was also only one top 10 instead of being split into roles, so it was way more competitive. A lot of players would win trading then, and a lot of players still win trade today, but it's really hard to prove because sometimes people do just earnestly play bad or do stupid things. But in this case, it was pretty obvious that the two brothers and the future teammate, NK, were intentionally throwing games on lower rated accounts to boost other ones. In a Q&A for Fractal Esports, teammate Tensa revealed that all accusations of win trading against the two were brought up by the one, the only, Kephrii. It is worth noting that in Overwatch 1, especially in the early days, one-tricking heroes was basically just throwing with extra steps. The worst heroes in Overwatch 1 were so bad that having heroes like Bastion on your team was basically an instant loss. In this instance, 8-inch penis holder Kephrii cites an incident where Scott was on his team throwing the game by playing Bastion while being in a voice chat with his brother Gator on the other team.
Hey Chad, I'm gonna throw you a secret real quick. Since we're live in game, Gator and Scott are in the same voice channel right now. It's awfully fucking coincidental. Gator and Scott? Scott and Gator.
5.
He usually thinks things are targeted against him, but in this instance, they probably actually were. In another incident, Kef was top 10 on the ladder and was playing with orisa player and known women's rights advocate eviltoaster. The win trader Paradise was also in this group, and while Kephrii didn't know who he was, the player was actively trying to worm his way into Kephrii's groups to bring him out of top 10 so more Fractal Esports players could get into it. Unfortunately, Paradise wasn't smart about it either, as he soft through Kephrii's match and immediately left his group and joined a Fractal Esports teammate who was playing on the other team to continue queuing against Kephrii. He was the person who was throwing in order to boost Fractal Esports players a lot of the time, as he was 300 SR below his season peak at the time he was in Kephrii's stack. And before we say too many positive things about Kephrii, he was, by his own admission, in the win trading Discord server and was trying to weaponize them to help him. In the following months, this Fractal Esports group would push more and more accounts into top 10, and in Season 9, they even had 6 players in it at once, above players like Prophet and Alarm. A 4-stack including some of their players played against some guys from a small team called Byweek, which had a 12-year-old Sugarfree on it, and after the match were toxic to them both in-game and on Twitter. All these things are small, but they built up over time and didn't exactly help their reputation. All these incidents led to 4 of the players getting banned for a whole year, though that ban was later shortened to just 1 contender season, so about 3 months. This caused some additional controversy, as around this time, Overwatch League was starting to crack down on players who had boosted or shared accounts. One player who was suspended was OG, and he was suspended for only 4 games, while these amateur players were suspended for a whole year. Even XQC noted that double standard, mentioning it on his Twitter. At the same time, Sada was suspended for 30 games, so maybe it's even. While Blizzard has never been fully transparent on their ban details, we can be 99% sure that these bans don't entirely have to do with boosting. Gator's brother Scott, for example, was insanely toxic. This video will live on in Overwatch infamy, as Scott berates Samito for absolutely no reason in an Overwatch lobby.
What is the name of your main account? What is the name of your main account? That's what the I thought. You're a pussy little that sits on a video game and you talk ish, but you can't back it up. You're not even standing in front of me. You're not even standing in front of me in person. I would drop kick your forehead if you saw me at a TwitchCon. I will send you a picture of me right now. When you see me at TwitchCon, walk up to me. That's what I want you to do. What's your Discord? What's your Discord? I will go to the next TwitchCon and I will ask for a head clip. Shut your mouth. That's what I thought. I will literally kill your parents. You understand me? Don't ever come and talk to me again.
Scott was so kind as to offer to send pictures of his member to Sam before killing his parents. What a kind guy. Apparently, Scott was addicted to methamphetamine and bragged about taking the substance while playing Overwatch. Honestly, being top 10 on meth is pretty impressive. He was also a white supremacist and claimed that he was proud that Overwatch as a game had a mostly white player base. For publishing that video, Tensa reportedly threatened to file a lawsuit against Amiibo. Scott and Gator would also trap people in games by leaving and rejoining right before the 2-minute timer expired, as shown in this blasé clip.
What are they doing?
They're joining and leaving so their teammates can't leave.
That's up.
Yeah, that's super fucked.
He's like, okay, guys, you got 30 seconds left. Dude.
I think he's there to call the timer for the other guy, right?
Yeah.
So Scott and Gator right now are leaving and rejoining so the other team can't leave the game. That's actually rough. Now they're trolling.
So just to be clear, it was not just the win trading. At least Scott was probably insane, and the rest of these guys were pretty young and probably just being way too edgy. After that, Kalush threatened to out other players in the Overwatch League for their boosting activities. Plenty of Overwatch League players boost, it's a good way to make money on the side, but it was a bannable offense, so Kalush was really threatening the livelihood of his boosting brethren. By this point, GOATs had just been created. Kalush had just been unbanned, and while Gator was still banned, the team existed and was operating. 2 days after his unban, Kalush went on his stream, continued his toxicity and threw games, all while asking girls for their Snapchats. Backing up and finally getting to the team this video is actually about, GOATs was created because Fractal Esports was blacklisted by Blizzard, and later on they even had to make another team because GOATs got blacklisted and then unblacklisted, and it's really unending with these people. But let's finish with familiarizing ourselves with the main players in GOATs. Of course there's Gator and Kalush. Scott had basically been exiled from the Overwatch community, though he would compete under other names sometimes. Tensa, who was apparently one of the best Xbox Destiny players, and Sit, who became Reiner in the Overwatch League. Before Gator was unbanned, they also had XQC for some reason, even though by that point he was no longer a functional professional player. Reiner, or Frill, or Sit, is one of the most interesting players in Overwatch history. He retired from Overwatch probably 2 or 3 times and would just come back under a new name. When he was in the league, he was a very good player, but according to coaching legend Unter, he would be so unbearably bad during scrims that the team thought about cutting him multiple times. He and Patapan would just be complaining 24/7 while scrimming, and when playing on stage, they would somehow be the best 2 players in the lobby. Unfortunately, in one of the strangest Overwatch League stories ever, Reiner left the Gladiators after 1 season, and while everyone thought he would return to a better team, he just never did. He eventually revealed the reason, which was that he had permanently retired from Overwatch due to a rib inflammation related injury that made it impossible for him to sit down for a long period of time. His most recent Reddit post also details his eye surgery, so hopefully he's doing okay now, but clearly he was struggling with his health for a while. They also had the most evil player of them all, Boostio, who committed the unspeakable act of switching to Valorant. Now he's a really good player over there, I think, and he recently played for 100 Thieves, so good for him. And of course, there's Gator, one of the most storied players in Overwatch. After all this GOAT stuff was over, Gator joined the Atlanta Reign in the Overwatch League, serving first as their main tank before switching to a coaching role, but drew some ire again for saying that Koreans ruined the Overwatch League. This is actually a really good video that just uses that as a hook, but yes, it does seem like he believes that to be true. Gator is also a known NFT lover, and formed a crypto trading power couple with his ex-girlfriend, Fran. All of that was exposed because he was of course talking shit to the London Spitfire before getting humbled by Hottie on Rhine. If you want to get jacked and huge like Hottie, make sure you like this video and subscribe for more succulent Overwatch content. Also, if you want to support me extra, click that join button and become a member to help me make more videos. Shout out to the legendary members Left Y, Hoodbanging65, and Sakuya Izayoi. Click that subscribe button. Do it right now. Anyways, nowadays Gator is the coach for Team Envy in Marvel Rivals, who are pretty good apparently. Now that we know all the boys, time to get to their greatest defense, the creation of the strongest composition in Overwatch history, GOATs. In the Beat Invitational Season 4 in May of 2018, GOATs was sent to the losers bracket early by the best team in the tournament, Envision. In the losers bracket, they faced off against last night's leftovers, who also somehow had Sugarfree, when Tensa had a crazy idea. Around this time, a new comp was starting to gain traction on 2CP maps, but especially First Point on Hollywood. Teams would play 4 tanks and Moira Lucio, because Moira back then had really OP AoE healing, and Beat was super easy to farm. This led to the GOATs on Temple of Anubis locking in 3 tanks, Moira, Lucio, and the newest hero, Brigitte. With this comp, the GOATs did not drop a single map throughout the rest of the tournament, despite not even being close to the best team in the tourney, and the rest is history. The comp was basically unkillable. If cooldowns were cycled properly, no one in the team could die. Brig, Lucio, and Zen had the best defensive ults in the game, where Zen and Brig would literally become unkillable. Ryan had a 2000 HP shield back then, Diva's Matrix was still Diva's Matrix, so it was obviously still OP, and Zarya had her bubbles an insane damage output. This would lead to fights like this where 13 ults were used before a player was killed.
Follow-up still not quite there. Transcendence able to keep him alive. And now finally someone dies and it happens to be Prophet.
Ooh, the big wipeout. Washington, they held it for so long. The win is instant.
I'm sure you can see how this was not engaging for the uninformed Overwatch League consumer. In the Overwatch League, the comp was eventually changed to have a Zenyatta instead of a Moira, and it would go on to be played for almost the next 2 years before Rollock was added. The comp was so strong that a coach named Silence released a 32-page document about how to beat GOATs as a DPS player. This comp had people lost, man. This meta had people booing in an arena, and caused many fans to become disillusioned with Blizzard's balance of the game as they weren't able to effectively get the meta to change in an entire year. Now, players like Super say that GOATs was the most skilled and engaging meta, but at the time, man, it did not feel like that as a viewer. Ultimately, the GOATs roster was incredibly storied, and they created the composition that changed Overwatch forever, and they certainly had some of the most interesting players of all time. I want to say once again that most of what these players said and did was from a long time ago, and you shouldn't hold it against them today, as they have definitely changed as people. But still, it is so crazy that it bears repeating for the story. I'm still just going to be confused forever about how they signed XQC in the middle of his Twitch blow up. Like, that's just so crazy. The next team of today's video once employed 3 pedophiles, 1 kidnapper, 1 groomer, 3 racists, and worst of all, 2 ball one-tricks. This organization, instead of moving like a boosting empire, was a doxing pedophilic empire who actually tried to conquer new regions. It is the one, the only, darkmode esports. Some of these players played for both GOATs and darkmode, like Soka and even Kaluj, and darkmode was targeted towards players who had been cancelled or who were unable to play for other teams for some reason. That is why their first roster they ever fielded had some lesser known players: Abdallah, the founder of darkmode esports, civil rights advocate Seeker, Age of Consent supporter dreamkazper, and boundaries respecter Matt Merck. They were also coached by Ballsack OW. I've talked about both dreamkazper and Matt before, but for a quick summary, dreamkazper dated a 14-year-old girl, and that's not like hearsay or anything. He admitted to it. He manipulated her, knew she was underage, and continued to send her sexually explicit images and tried to get her to engage in sexual activities multiple times. And like I said at the start of this video, he was signed to darkmode esports after all of that was public knowledge. He had to play under false identities like IES and Wick, and when questioned about it, darkmode responded with, "And?" There's a reason that tweet got deleted. Matt Merck, on the other hand, is less clear-cut. His allegation was for kidnapping his ex-girlfriend, though apparently he just took her on a really long drive and didn't let her leave for a while, but eventually dropped her off at home and everything was fine. I'm sure I'm missing some nuance there, but I don't think that classifies as actual kidnapping. Seeker would also face his fair share of controversy, but long after leaving darkmode. I know that Seeker is a really popular player, so it bears repeating that you're allowed to have your own opinions about what he did, but this all happened when he was 15. Anyways, in the post-Overwatch League era, Seeker signed to a team called M80, alongside some other top-tier American talent like Kaluj. Around that time, a Twitter account called ViewerOW started teasing some information about this team. Well, what they ended up releasing was 86 pages of Seeker, Mikey, Sam, and OG, who all also played for darkmode, saying the N-word hard R in a Discord server. 86 pages. The way this got exposed is just the most Looney Tunes shit ever. Apparently, Seeker himself logged in on Discord on a PC in a scrim room at a LAN event, and after he was done, another team came in. Seeker did not log out, and unfortunately for him, the next player on his setup, Overwatch legend Nico GDH, snooped around on his account and Control-F'd the N-word to try to find it if he ever said it. Mikey and OG just accepted it and left the Overwatch scene forever, deactivating their Twitter accounts and disappearing, but Seeker decided to buckle down and try to fight it. He released this apology that was initially accepted. Later on though, a 21-page document came out further targeting Seeker and darkmode. The story follows a girl who was involved in Overwatch when she probably shouldn't have been, and her stories of being doxxed by darkmode and at times targeted by Seeker. At one point, she made a poll on her stream asking if she should take her own life, which some of the darkmode boys flooded to vote yes on. I'm not going to show it in this video, but there's also a clip on that document of darkmode players using IP grabbing links on Discord to dox people. I don't want to go too hard accusing Seeker of trying to get this girl to cut herself like this document does, but for his part, the document showed that Seeker's initial apology was 100% AI generated, and he was operating a racist Twitter account called LeJohn Brames. Mikey also notably had grooming allegations, but realistically he was just kind of socially awkward. darkmode had a history of employing players after they were banned from the Overwatch League, and the next 3 players are all examples of that. The first one worth mentioning is Aspire, who dated and had sex with a 16-year-old girl while he was 21. There are plenty of screenshots and evidence that I just honestly don't want to go over in this video, but he was a really controlling and manipulative boyfriend. He was dropped from Team USA, Vancouver Titans, and restricted from Overwatch League, but that made him a prime target for darkmode. Moving on, Mouffin was accused of many things, including but not limited to sexual assault, sending unsolicited cock and ball pictures to a 15-year-old, and trying to entice a 15-year-old into his house by offering to boost her on Overwatch. W Riz. This situation though is infinitely complex, and so many of the statements have been deleted now that it's impossible to really put anything together. But if I remember correctly, the original girl was lying or exaggerating, and then the 15-year-old girl stuff came out and he got shafted again. Take all this with a grain of salt. I'm pretty sure a lot of this wasn't true, but anyways, as soon as he got dropped from Boston for these allegations, he got picked up by darkmode. The last player is Provide, who I've already made a video about, but the TLDR is that he led a racist organization in Overwatch, yes that's real, to target and harass Overwatch creators, waited that out until people forgot about it, changed his name, got signed to a new Overwatch League team, and then got exposed for being 22 years old and dating a special needs 16-year-old. They also expanded their empire to South America and Korea, where the teams are not nearly as controversial luckily, so I guess that's good. Now I kind of feel like I gotta find some good things to say about them. J-Mac was their coach. He was good. He wrote a 60-page doc for them about how to improve. Why can't Overwatch players just condense information into a shorter document so it's easier for me to read? Anyway, Juby? Goodbye, Juby. You guys remember that? That was funny. Yeah, this team was pretty cooked. Their owner, Abdallah, was proud of it too. And it's pretty clear that he, or at least someone in the org, made a conscious effort to sign people like dreamkazper. Bro was moving like prime Jeffrey Epstein. I'm glad that we at least don't have orgs like this around anymore. Subscribe immediately.